When simplifying radicals, the first thing you need to decide is whether or not the radical is rational or irrational. And the way to determine that, if there's just a number inside the radical sign, if there's a variable in there, it's a little bit different. We'll talk about that in another section. But if there's a number inside of it, if the number is a square number, like 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, and so on, these squares, then it's rational. If it's a number besides that, it's irrational. And so that's the first thing you need to determine, because if it's rational, like our first example, the square root of 16, then the answer is just plus or minus 4, because 4 squared is 16 and negative 4 squared is also 16. Often we're only concerned with the positive versions, and so the answer is usually just 4, but technically it is a positive 4 and negative 4. Simplifying radicals when your number is not rational, like rad 20, our second example here, square root of 20. Remember, square root radical is kind of used interchanging. The square root of 20 is not irrational because 20 is not a square number. And so what you have to think of is, can it be reduced? Does 20 have any square factors? And it does. So what you want to do is split it up into two radicals. And numbers that multiply to 20, one of them has to be a square. And the square is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 is a square number. Put the square number on the left and circle it. And then you reduce that. And we like a rational radical, and the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2 rad 5. And so today let's only worry about the positive version, so let's just say 2 rad 5 is the final answer. And a good way to check that is to type rad 20 into your calculator. It's going to give you an irrational number because it is irrational, but it'll give you a decimal. And then type 2 rad 5 into your calculator. You should get the same irrational decimal number. 3 rad 12. 12 is not a square number, but it can be reduced with 4 and 3. Again, I put the square on the left and I circle it. It becomes a 2. But the answer is not 2 rad 3 because there was a 3 already in front of it. And so the number that was already out there and the number I took out, they get multiplied to 6 rad 3. 7 rad 36. I recognize that 36 is a square rational because 36 is a square number, and the square root of 36 is positive and negative 6, but we're just going to use the positives today, and 7 times 6 is 42. 4 rad 75. Break down the 75. It's not a square number, but it does have a square factor of 25. Put it on the left and circle it. 25 and 3. Multiply to 75. Square root of 25 is 5. Multiplied by the 4 already out there, we get 20 rad 3. And the last one, 6 rad 24. It's not square. It has square factors of 4 and 6. And that becomes a 2 times the number in front, 12 rad 6. And you know you're in simplest radical form when the number inside the radical cannot be reduced. For example, radical 6 here cannot be divided by any squared numbers besides 1. And dividing it by 1 we know is not really going to change it, but it cannot be divided by 4 or 9 or 16. So we know we're in simplest radical form.